Are you going to start?
Yeah, I am.
It's your show.
Welcome to Honesty Hour. I asked them where they're all from, right? I learned that my first show.
That's what we do.
My very first show. We are not on yet.
Yeah, we're on.
We're on.
Yeah.
You know, this is my first honest moment. They built. Oh, there's the red light.
Yeah.
There's this red light we use to know when we're on and when we're off, and we watch it. See, it's off again. So,
yeah.
As far as I know, I'm not on.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Guys, I'm tired. It's gonna be a show. It's Honesty Hour. This is Tony. I'm Zach. I run the place. Tony's one of our Shadowrun players. That's how we do it. Guys, sorry it took so long. We were actually out front talking about Shadowrun and discussing the show and everything else, doing boss stuff. I was doing boss stuff, so sorry we're late. We had to, as a group, you guys all have day jobs and everything, and
yes.
As we've seen from email chains, it's best if we just hash it out in the moment. It's worth us being 10 minutes late rather than get a 40 email long chain going.
Which we had this week, solely trying to find a 2-hour period this weekend. We can all play games.
Yeah, I like it when it was finally like, Cheryl was like, wait, I'm confused. What's going on?
Right.
Damn it. And 20 more emails.
We could have used Doodle, but instead we wanted 40 emails. So
Yeah. So, Tony, welcome to Honesty Hour. This is basically a show that's never an hour long.
Right.
We talk about anything and everything. I apologize right off the bat because I've had a really rough 2 weeks. And it might get dark. And it might get sad. I'm going to try not to. I'm going to try because I'd prefer this to be about you because we're interviewing you. But if I take it over with my bullshit negativity, just let me know and be like, hey, snap out of it, dum-dum.
I'm about to turn 40. I've gone through a divorce. I can probably take some.
Okay, cool. I've gone through a divorce as well. That sucks.
Oh.
Divorces suck.
Yeah.
Being married to the wrong person also sucks.
Yes. It kind of sucks.
Divorces suck less than, to me, it sucked, well, because it was a mutual thing, sucked less than being married to the wrong person. That's...
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah. I can understand they suck for some people. Everyone kept asking me when I was going through my divorce, how are you doing? Aren't you, destroyed right now and super upset? I was like, honestly, I feel great because I'm out of what was a bad situation. I feel better now.
I think it's Louis C.K. who's like, why do you ever say, I'm sorry to someone who's going through a divorce? He's like, good marriages don't end in a divorce.
Exactly.
I was like, we were so happy.
Yeah.
And then...
something was wrong, and you got out of it.
Right.
So, yay. Well, welcome, Tony. We just jumped right in there, and this is also a chance for you guys to ask us questions. We use this show as a way to talk to you all about what's going on with the channel, what things you like, what things you don't like. We'll get to as many things as we can. If we miss questions, sometimes you can repost them, and we'll try to get to them again. But ask a lot of questions. For me and Tony, we'll answer as much as we can, but we'll talk about ourselves, we'll talk about the channel. I will not talk about other people or my past jobs, so this is about us and now and what's moving forward for the channel. So
yeah.
Okay, this show is about Tony, but Discord was curious. Zach, is that a new shirt? Also, fuck it, same question for Tony. No, you guys have seen me wear this shirt on air for over 1.5 years now. All of my clothes are a couple years old.
This shirt is fairly new. It's the Elephant Car Wash, which is, if you've been to Seattle, it's a giant sign, and in fact the car wash is still there. So it's kind of a Seattle landmark.
Here's a thing. Seattle's a big internet town. It's a big tech town. Did anyone happen to inform the bear car washes that their bears look like the pedo bear? All over the city? The pedo bear is hiding at every street corner as a car wash.
The bear logo came about before pedo bear came around.
That's a real shame.
I fucking hate that car wash, and you're gonna identify with this because I had a laptop stolen from. I was literally vacuuming my car out with the laptop here, and a guy came running up, grabbed it, and ran. And I went to the people at Brown Bear. I was like, "Hey, do you have cameras?" And the guy was just like, "Maybe," but would not even talk to me about it. And I literally bought the laptop the day before. I'd previously had a laptop stolen, and I was about to get insurance for it. So I fucking hate Brown Bear Car Wash.
I also didn't have insurance for my laptop because I haven't filed all the things I own on our new business insurance yet.
Right.
And I used to have insurance for my old company, Aren't We Clever, and I had to cancel that because I made the company go away. So it's in that weird in-between space.
Yes.
It's like, great, right in there.
Yep. So it's just the extra knife in the...
Yeah. And like my vehicle is still sitting out back with a broken window getting rained in and a flat tire now too. And I'm just like, you know what? Fuck you, life. I'm not even going to deal with it right now. Yes. I've got too much other stressful shit. I just go out and I look at my car and I'm like, no, fuck you. I'm not dealing with it. No way.
2 questions I've seen come by. One is I do have a career in tech. I'm a developer from Microsoft. That's why I came out to Seattle. I actually was a poetry major. I was going to work for Microsoft for 2 years and then go write poetry in the mountain. I don't know what my plan was. Didn't happen that way. And I do lots of improv.
Did you have a plan? Is that how it works out of college? You're like, here's my plan.
Right.
I'm going to make this much money at this young age, and then I'm going to retire after 2 years and go write poetry in the mountains.
Yes, that was kind of it. Didn't have. It turns out I don't need to make a lot of money, but I like making more money than a poet would make. And I do performance stuff. How does that work out? Well, I mentioned I got a divorce. It probably did not help having that marriage. Now that Janine, who plays on the Shadowrun show, and I have been in a relationship a while, they say actors shouldn't date actors, but honestly, any kind of theater, you're devoting a huge part of your life to something that most civilians think is kind of a frivolous hobby.
Yeah. All the people that say that shit, fuck them. I swear, in any creative endeavor, I feel like it's tremendously helpful within the relationship for them to understand and be a part of that creative endeavor because it's life draining. Yes. And if you're not, Jordan and I had to talk about this the other day because Jordan's wife has been working with him for 15 years. And he's like, yeah, we can't judge other people that do that because we have to. Your girlfriend works with you. I'm like, yeah. Otherwise, I never get to see her or be around her. And I would prefer her and I work on things together and share creative experiences rather than never, ever talk to each other, which is kind of what's happening now because she's in LA and I'm here.
Right.
But I say fuck all the people that say that because there's no... I went through that phase. Like, my ex-wife situation was kind of like that. I thought she was because she had gotten a degree in design, but she was still much more business-minded and a little more traditional family thinking. And one of the reasons we started going downhill pretty quick is she thought it was my responsibility as a husband to take a desk job to make a certain amount of money and give up on all the things I'd been working for at that point. I had just gotten out of school with my graduate degree in painting and I was getting ready to move to LA for film. She's like, no, you can't do that. You have to take this job that is makes a certain amount of money, whatever. And I make more now doing what I love. And back then I would have been like, I would be sitting at a desk doing yearbook consulting work.
Yeah.
Like, I'd want to kill myself.
Right.
And I'm not saying other people who do that kind of work are doing something bad or wrong. It's just know yourself personally. And I know myself personally would fucking hate myself.
Yes.
Doing that kind of job.
Well, here's the thing, too. It's if you're going to do any kind of art that does not have an immediate financial return, it's not just your sacrifice. If you're in a relationship with somebody, they're making that sacrifice, too. So you'd better find somebody who values it enough to understand why they're making that sacrifice.
Right. I've got to love the process as much because it's hard. It is so hard on relationships.
A couple other questions. A lot of the Cromwell questions are interesting for me to see. I'm going to answer them in the show as things go along. But I'll say Cromwell, if anyone who hates doors, which, by the way, weird fact, women have, like some study says, they have nightmares about doors 80% more than men. That there's a weird anxiety around doors. But anyone who hates doors probably spent some time trapped or afraid of something at some point in their life. So, I...
Went a little deeper with that than I thought you would.
Yes.
Guys, there's more to Cromwell than you know.
I'm not sure Cromwell thinks about it that way. He just wants to get to the door as fast as possible.
So you also play with Cromwell's psychologist, like you dive in and like...
I think about it. Living in Seattle helps. It makes sense. It's something. It's one of the reasons, having played originally, that made me want to come to Seattle. It has this romantic.
I've heard that
it really well. But I also read voraciously, and I don't know. I totally get that Shadowrun world of like corporations, and living in Seattle helps. It makes sense. It's something. It's one of the reasons, having played originally, that made me want to come to Seattle. It has this romantic...
I've heard that from a lot of people, that they moved out here because of it, but then it totally dropped off the map for them. So that's part of why we started this show, is there's a lot of people who have a fondness for it, that remember it so well, and that made them love Seattle and games, and they came here because of it, and then they want to get back into it. So
yeah. Cromwell thinks he's King Arthur, maybe.
Where are you from, Tony?
I am from Tennessee, East Tennessee, near Knoxville. If I had not left, I would still be talking like this, which is how my mom still talks. Tony. So I went to school. I left it to go to Indiana, where they talk faster like this, and they say things like "I push a wheelbarrow" anymore. But I miss the mountains from Tennessee, but not the rednecks. So Seattle.
I'm the exact same way with Arkansas. Like, I miss that fucking state and how clean and pretty it is so much. Don't miss rednecks.
Yes. Wilder, you're an hour and a half from Knoxville. I grew up in a town called Norris. You may know Norris Dam. But I went to high school at Oak Ridge, which has the National Lab, which is where a big part of the Manhattan Project happens.
Oh, hey. That's cool.
Murfreesboro, wow. I went to band camp there, I think.
So when did you say you went to college in Indiana?
Yeah, Purdue, West Lafayette. Studied dual major, computer science and poetry. So I didn't just get my job at Microsoft with poetry, although at that time there weren't that many computer scientists. I might have been able to.
When did you decide to head to Seattle to do tech stuff? Like, how old were you?
I was right out of college. I think I was 21.
Damn.
That was 98. Yeah, it was... I've literally had the same tech job since I left college.
And honestly, in this industry, that's kind of amazing.
It's weird, and I don't think I would have survived if I didn't do theater and these other big creative pursuits outside of it.
To help, like, balance the monotony, or
just people get really, if you only do one thing, you only have one thing going on in your life, and it starts to go wrong, you get really anxious about it. If you got multiple things, things like climbers,
just redirect.
Like, climbers always have 3 points of contact, and they can move one limb.
I think I need multiple things going on in my life right now.
Yes. I think it's great to have those times where you're like all in.
Yeah.
But for me personally, having like improv, gaming, all that stuff that I really get into means if work, like if I have a weird manager, it doesn't stress me out that much because I have these other things going on.
Well, you've been there long enough too where you're like, yeah, I'll just stick around and you'll get out of here in no time.
Anything that goes wrong, I've already seen it and I know it will resolve itself.
That's... I know I've heard you talk positively about your experience. Otherwise, I wouldn't ask you to talk about it because I don't want to incriminate Microsoft in any way, shape, or form on our channel. But I've heard you say that you really enjoyed working there, and that there's like, I mean, I thought it was really cool when you came out to help with the charity drive that you're like, oh yeah, Microsoft will match.
Yeah, so
that's unique and interesting to me.
Yeah, so a big thing. And one of the reasons I pick on Amazon actually here in Seattle is so Microsoft has a rule: any donations their employees make, up to a very large percent of their paycheck, they will just match to any charitable organizations. Any volunteer time you do for a nonprofit, they will match currently like $25 an hour.
Wow.
So, Microsoft, I'm sure for tax reasons, things like that, needs to give out this money, but they really let their employees decide where that money goes. So they're a huge part of the community. I built when I first joined, Bill Gates was there, and he was in his weird, like, I'm not going to give away money until I reach a certain age, and then I'm going to go do it. But obviously he had that community mindedness, given that he went and now does mostly sort of charitable work with his wealth. And so Microsoft had that from the beginning, which is one of the best benefits, I think, to look for. Like Amazon's not there. Amazon's a younger company. They're still on that, like, trying to get off the ground in their minds, I think. So they don't do that. It's very frustrating as someone who does theater to to sort of have these people taking this giant footprint in your town, providing a lot of jobs, but not necessarily giving as much back. So I always like to put pressure on them because I think they get too much crap for some of their stuff. But I do like to put pressure on that company to find, because so many tech companies do that matching.
Yeah, I think one of the big reasons I've always had a problem supporting Apple is up until recently they didn't even have a charity department or an outreach kind of department in their company. And it's like, you are the most profitable company in the world and you don't have this wing in your company. That, as a person that likes charity and that likes trying to give back to others in need, that always kind of upset me, and I wouldn't want to work for a company like that.
Microservice came out, I was seeing Mr. Thropes right before I joined. It was it's a little overly dramatized. Here's the thing you should know about the tech industry is people who get in religious arguments about companies probably aren't doing it. I have an iPhone. I work at Microsoft. No one gets freaked out that I have one. It's just the phone I have. I like it. If I worked on Windows Phone, maybe I get some crap for it.
Allc88, thank you for following.
But when I joined, Microsoft was not. Microsoft was considered a monopoly. I worked on Office. They were considering splitting up Office and Windows. And I think Microsoft just did a bad job of realizing they had to keep politicians happy. They also just had to do some work, and they were doing a few things wrong. But I've been there long enough to see them kind of turn the head on that. I've also been there long enough, most of these things people think are conspiracies are more just no one stepping up and taking responsibility in a big company. So often I see this conspiracy, they did this or they did this for this, and so often it's just a bunch of normal employees who don't recognize.
Oh yeah, I love it when it happens honestly to us on Twitch channels all the time too, and it happened in my last job and even the one before that, where people like to imagine that there's this agenda or something else going on that they like to let their imagination run wild on, and it usually just comes down to incompetence or lack of communication between one department to the next properly. There'll be these big arguments of oh, this is happening totally because of this, and this person did this, or they're doing it because of this, and it's a shady thing. It's literally because one email didn't get opened, and it just got lost in the transition. Yeah. And that's it. We like to imagine that it's way bigger and crazier. It's usually just communication errors or something that oh, there's this little thing in hand and a contract here, and we can't do this, so that's the end of that.
When I read it, I'm wow, I wish, when I read government conspiracies, I'm I wish the government
was
competent. I wish they were competent enough to pull, no one's that competent.
No!
Now I'm going to ask a question. If I had it all to do over again, would I stay in tech? And it's a weird question about regrets. I don't know what it would have been if I didn't go into tech, right? I'm happy now. I have lots of opportunities before me. If I have any regrets, it's usually because I hurt somebody, not because I went left rather than right. Because I don't really know. If I went back in time, I don't know. Do I know now what I know then? I might do something different just to have a new experience. But I like tech. And again, don't make your job your only thing you do. Just make sure you have a solid enough foundation to do lots of interesting, exciting things. In fact, I have a thought. Follow your bliss, which you were accused of saying.
No, I never said that.
Never said it?
No.
Joseph, I think it's a Joseph Campbell quote, follow your bliss.
Cool, great. Good to know.
But here's the thing. It's not follow your bliss and you're going to be happy. I'm not getting this weird Joseph Campbell myth stuff. But what the thing is if you follow your bliss, you may be miserable. You may go through all these sacrifices. It may do all these terrible things to you. But he had this idea that you're supposed to be on a certain path. You kind of know what it is. If you don't follow the path, maybe you're going to be happy and fat and tired, but you're never going to live out your potential. So,
thank you for the resubscribe, Galactictron.
I believe in that kind of follow your bliss.
Oh, Hover Junkers came out for VR. Sorry. Steam's open. Space Pirate just came out too for early. Holy shit. Nice. So all the VR titles hit this week.
Oh, right. Because this was when the...
Yeah. And I'm looking at all of this shit rotating through, and I'm oh my god, we have so many games to buy for VR all of a sudden. Holy crap. Back to this interesting stuff. People were asking me earlier, why has your week been shitty and blah, blah, blah. I feed off stress. It's kind of
yeah.
my natural state. I don't like comfortability. Well, it's a thing that all stems from my physical condition, where it's like I'm constantly in chronic pain and stress anyway, and I have to almost find stuff that's more stressful than that. Otherwise, I just sit around in pain and feel sorry for myself.
Right.
So it's kind of like I put myself in situations that elevate everything around me. But these last 2 weeks have been especially difficult, just with all the stuff going on with our business and the deal. Like, we've been having so many issues with the landlord, and there's like the possibility of a lawsuit and this other stuff with them if they try to like kick us out, and we'll be like, no, you can't do that. We would lose so much money.
Right.
Like, they were just like, we might have to ask you to leave. I'm like, no, that's not an option. It took us a month to build this place, and we only make money if we're live. Like, that's the only way we make money. So we can't just go offline and move somewhere else that might be better for us. This is where we're at, and we kind of have to make it
work. And what is their complaint?
Their complaint is that we're too loud, and that it's causing a disturbance to all the people around us. Our complaint is because they have 2 sheets of drywall separating us from one.
Right.
It's like we're cubicles.
Yeah.
So they can hear every single word we say, no matter what. And we've been in communication with people on both sides, and we get it. We understand that's like, but we can't change the way we run our business by the fact that it disturbs someone else's. Like, then our business would fail. If we didn't react to people subscribing, if we didn't react to people, like if we were just really quiet all the time in here, it wouldn't be the same channel. It'd be a completely different experience.
Right, Goobs would not be anywhere.
Well, we wouldn't let him in the building.
Right.
Or Claudia. Or Viking Lass. Like, it would be a completely different experience, and honestly, it's one that wouldn't engage you guys enough as an audience. So we pretty much put our foot down. We're like, no, that's not possible. We're not just going to be quiet. They threatened, like, you know, they threatened stuff in their lease about how it says you can't just be a disturbance to people through, you know, smoke, animals, or noise.
Right.
But to get technical, they didn't list decibels, you know, and it's just like, well, when we rented this place, we didn't think that the walls were paper thin.
And we're not screaming most of the time.
Well, no, honestly, it's not, like, that's the thing. It's really, because I've done filming all over the place, all, you know, in different locations and everything, and I know that we're not that bad. We're really not.
Yeah.
There's a bicycle studio across the way that does workouts way louder, but they don't have anyone next to them.
Right.
So no one's complaining.
Yeah.
So whatever. That's been rough. You mix that in with a lot of the other issues with just, you know, we're trying to constantly get our numbers up. We're trying to get new people in. I keep adding more shows because it's helping bring in European viewers and new people. Destroying me. Yes. It's more work. And then we've been adding more videos because the videos are helping. We've been doing a lot more outreach on YouTube because it brings in new fans. Getting all those videos up on YouTube, recording new videos, editing those videos, all that stuff is just so draining and exhausting. I mentioned on Rabbit Stew today, like yesterday was I've been pushing so hard, which I'm used to, but my body's got to that point where it's starting to go to that shutdown mode where I can't control it when it decides to shut down. And like I got home at like 4 a.m. last night, and I get there and the dog's chewed up a bunch of stuff that isn't mine, and I have to like deal with that. And the second I tell the dog no, he pees on the floor in front of me out of a reaction to me saying no. I gotta clean that up and do all this other stuff, and then I have to like answer a bunch of emails, and I finally get in bed at 5:30, and I hit the pillow and I noticed that I've just started crying, and then I just remember falling asleep. And I'm not crying because I'm depressed. It's just like my body's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how else to react. Fuck it.
There are all these awesome things about Seattle that Janine and I have been like, hey, we should invite the staff to like come see this or this, and we're like, but they have no time. Like, I love when people ask you how Seattle is. Yeah. Like there are.
I haven't left.
Yes.
This weekend's the first time I'm going to get to actually do something.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna work while I'm doing it because
Yes.
I can't not. But going to Emerald City Comic Con, I won't be here Friday. Everyone else here is gonna run the channel. I will be there. I will be at Emerald City Comic Con trying to meet a bunch of people, get to know more of the locals because we need guests for our shows. Our outreach is terrible because we don't have time to go talk to people. We're too busy, which is bad planning on my part. So I'll be there all weekend, and I get to do that thing with you guys that I'm really excited about.
Yep. It's gonna be in Seattle Theater Sports is an improv show. Someone asked what type of theater I do. I do almost 100% improv theater. I'm artistic associate down at this place, Unexpected Productions, which has done improv comedy for like 30 years now. So we do a show, Theater Sports. If you've seen comedy sports, similar, 2 teams of improvisers competing. There are 3 judges. I really can't think of a better judge because in theater sports, the judges are hated. Like the audience boos them. Their job is to put a number on art. I can't think of a better person to put in that role.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to judge you guys. I can't wait to. You said there's a way people can like veto an act.
We're giving you a horn. And encouraging you when you're tired of something or think it's not working or you're just bored, like end it. So yeah.
We'll see if I've slept between Friday and Saturday night, and that's gonna really dictate how well that horn, how much that horn gets used. Oh, and by the way, guys, so Malika's in the chat. She said, "Look out for Hyper RPG stickers at Emerald City Comic Con." Malika, God bless her, she stayed up all night the other night making custom stickers for us to give out at Emerald City Comic Con. Like, we have the Trivia Hops bottle with Kaiju on it stickers. We have a sub sticker with, she got us a bunch of round stickers that we can give away, square stickers. Like, they're really awesome. Thank you so much for doing that, Malika. Yes. Will this be caught on video? Does anyone record this event?
Not usually. One of the things I'm interested in learning what you do here is improv is set back in like the 80s where like no one's good at filming things like that. But I will say improv does not translate well to video. Twitch is super interesting because it's like improv. It's in the moment.
Yeah.
And you guys get...
The weird thing is that an improv show, you usually get to leave. And you might have one person tweet or something and be like, that was a good show. Here, anything you do is gift, and you're reminded of it thousands of times forever until the end of time. It's really great. And then there's video evidence of it all. So it's like kind of like improv, but kind of like, oh fuck, the stupid shit I'm saying is being recorded.
Growing up, this kid named Ryan Shelton in my church played trombone for Christmas, and he did terrible. He just on Oh Holy Night, he just biffed it, and he gave up halfway through. And on the way out, I heard his mom be like, "No one's gonna remember this in 2 years." But I grew up in Norris is like a 2,000 person town. To this day, people still talk about it. Here I am telling random strangers on the internet.
Yeah. What was his name?
Ryan Shelton.
Bleep the Shelton part, but fuck you, Ryan. We remember. We'll never forget.
So it's like that. Someone asked.
This is a really small world, by the way. Somebody just said, "I think that's the same Ryan I know." You'd be amazed. We've done talks where somebody would be like, "Oh, I'm from the same town you guys are from," or "I went to college with you." Right. I know people, and then you're like, "Oh shit, this is the real world." People know people I know from back home. This isn't some separate universe.
I would love it if Ryan Shelton found out about that because he was an easygoing enough guy. I think he'd be okay.
Oh, yeah, you'd be like, "You said my full name on the internet. Fuck you, dude." Right.
Right. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Black Dick Sean says, how about a Hyper RPG half-hour stand-up show? So, here's my thought on that. The only way that would work is if we found some unique way to get all of the subs in Discord with good audio on for people to react to stuff live. Because I've done stand-up on Twitch before to an empty room with people, and it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
Because it's all about reacting to people in the moment and knowing where to push and where to let go and all that good stuff. And to an empty room, it's tough.
We, in Shadowrun, because everyone except Claudia is former improv. Actually, Claudia has a lot of improv experience, too. Also, she's just naturally, clearly pretty good at it. But we're so used to getting that audience feedback that we literally walk out and we're like, "Joe, how was it, Joe? You're our only live audience."
Yeah, pretty much.
Because and any good stand-up feels it out as they go.
How about a Hyper RPG Primal Scream show accompanied by amplified bagpipes? That'd be perfect. Discord is adding video in the next few months. Interesting.
That'd be interesting.
I wonder what the delay time will be on that, because
I have some ideas that I'll be throwing at Zach here and there. I think
you guys have done some really cool improv shows, or or sketches that I thought sounded amazing for Twitch.
Yeah, Dan, who plays Mordecai, does a Final Fantasy. He directed a Final Fantasy
You're
show.
going to bring this up on this, and they're going to go nuts until we do it.
Right.
That's why I've never brought it up, but go for it.
We did this improvised Final Fantasy show. I was in it. Lauren was in it. In fact, that's where I met Lauren, our GM. So the audience would pick our classes, and Dan made this whole map application. So in the show, the audience would pick locations. They would show up on the map, and we would quest. And we would literally like go from narrative, drama going on to Final Fantasy style fights, where we and the monsters took opposite sides of the stage. Really a blast. Something like that might work. There's also improv shows where you get we do improvised Christmas Carol where you get 30 suggestions up front. So that'd be one where the chat room could really give us those suggestions up front, decide everything about the show, and then we don't have to have that immediate feedback. But I mean,
yeah. Now they're gonna yell at me until we make it happen.
Yeah. But Trivia Hops is a good example. That's a very pure improv, right? You're not doing a good game show. The scores don't matter. You're watching it to see it fall apart, to see everyone run with those mistakes.
Sometimes I think it's not on purpose, but it's we know what we're doing. This show exists to be chaos, as much as I hate it. And then me hating it, I understand how important that is to the show succeeding, is me hating the fact that it's chaos.
Yes.
There's things I don't like about Twitch, and I have to capitalize on them.
Right.
It's I know what people want, and I'm well, fuck this. I guess I'll do it.
Yeah, I love it. I love the chaos of that. It's interesting to see how it works. And that's one where your stand-ups do really well, I think. Stand-up and improv are very different. If you've done one or the other, stand-up is you versus the audience. This is very aggressive. You get a lot of hecklers. People kind of make me laugh, fucker. Improv, generally your audience is on your side. They really want you to succeed. They laugh when you screw up, and they love it when you kind of get out of trouble. So there's turnover, but...
Sinescopy, because that's what I call him.
Yes.
Said, we got you time to paint at least. I'm yeah, you did. Thank you for that. And I do enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. But it doesn't magically create free time outside of the painting. It just means that when I'm not doing that, I now have 3 extra hours in the day I have to make up for the work I didn't do while doing it. So it's not all of a sudden I get a show that I'm I get to relax for these 3 hours. It's the whole time I'm in it, I'm well, that's 3 extra hours of not sleep tonight to catch up on all the emails and everything else. And
yeah, I was going to ask you about that, folding and relaxing into the things you do.
There isn't
you're
any.
A really productive person.
And honestly, I probably won't, because I know myself, until Malika comes out here.
Right.
When Malika moves here, she'll force me to take care of myself better. I will not stop because I don't have a gauge of when to stop. And the thing is, she kind of does that to herself too. We kind of need each other to see how far down the rabbit hole we've gone, and be whoa, back up. We need to just watch a movie, or and the funny thing is, we say that a lot, and we'll be okay, let's just watch a movie tonight, and the next thing you know, we're both working. Yeah. And that's what we end up doing, but at least we can pull each other back.
For the first 2 years of our relationship, I think Janine and I made the mistake of, we are going to we're going to see each other at rehearsal. We're going to see each other. She directs improv. I direct. We both perform for each other. But that is not relationship time, right? It's good time. It's great time. We have a blast doing this, but we literally have to schedule in we can't talk about any of our improv or this because we love talking about it. But you almost have to turn that off. It can be
overwhelming. Yeah, and that's something I need to be better at in my relationship, because it's what we're doing is so overwhelming, and this is so consuming that I feel bad that when I finally do get a chance to talk, it's all I talk about, because I have no one else to vent to and to get it all out. And then I realize that I've just dumped so much stress on this other person, and then I'm wow, you don't deserve that. I just laid it all out. And I'm fuck. Seeing if we get any questions in here. Yeah, hopefully you guys are liking all the new shows too. Now that we're doing stuff for a European audience kind of, and doing morning shows. We're always looking at new shows to bring. Oh, good news, guys, and I can officially tell you this now. We did get approval from Paizo to do the new Paizo show.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm working on that. We're going to figure it all out, hopefully within the next week or two. we can start that. We just got a lot of stuff that we've got to knock out to make it work, but we got approval, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. It's more work. It's another show.
Yes.
It'll be on Tuesday nights after another show that has a large cast and takes a lot of work.
Well, what could go wrong?
God damn it. I hope you guys understand that a lot of what we do isn't polished when we start. And it gets better as we go. Because that's just the way this has to work. This isn't TV production. This isn't like... This isn't film or even theater. It's live. It's live production. And if we were to take the time to... everybody wants more. And we get emails from people constantly saying, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And why don't you guys do this? I wish you guys would do this. Why don't you have, character bios for Shadowrun characters yet? Why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? And I'm like, because we're fucking trying to please everybody all the time. And we can't structure out our business in a way that it's like... the main reason a lot of Twitch streamers do reactionary things is because it produces itself. And then you only have to worry about reacting to the emails and reacting to the content. Like, playing a game is reactionary content. It creates itself. It's great. And that's why we do it. Isn't necessarily, it's like we want to communicate with you guys and be fans with you guys with these games. But it's also because it's reactionary content and it happens in the moment and you don't have to do much else other than that. But to be an elevated kind of content provider, you got to produce, you got to plan, you got to find guests, you got to come up with ideas, you got to keep making it fresh, you got to constantly reinvigorating that audience. And then when you do RPG shows, you're like, oh my fucking shit. Now everybody wants you to have full backgrounds. They want to have a deeper dive into that world. They want character art. They want all these things. And it's like, Jesus Christ, do you expect this out of the Twitch streamers who just turn on Call of Duty? Like, no. And I understand why you have that perception. We turn on and you see all these nice cameras, you see all this stuff, and you get this immediate reaction to it like, oh, this is elevated, so I'm going to ask for more. I understand we put that out there by giving you something that's higher produced. Do we actually have more resources to pull up? No. We have the same resources that anyone else would.
I mean, here's my observation. Anytime I see like the chat room asking for something, it's almost something I heard Zach like 2 weeks before being driven crazy that he hasn't gotten together.
Oh,
yet.
I know that. So. Yeah, I know. That's the other thing that no one understands. It's like we're already working on it. We're trying to do it, but we have to schedule everything out to where every show grows equally. If we decided to focus on one show, fans of another show would get really upset. Yeah. So we can't just be like, well, drop everything and let's make Trivia Hops this week the best show we could ever possibly make it. It's kind of like we have a staggered thing of like, okay, in a month, I really want to have this done. I've been wanting to do the Shadowrun intro video with Lauren for a long time. We wanted to do the character art for you guys before the show ever started, right. But you got to tier this shit out or for one, we would have never launched.
Yeah. Because
it takes time and money. And if we would have waited, and if we would have been like, you know what, let's just get everything perfect and then launch, well, then you're paying people for pre-production. And pre-production, you're not making money, you're just spending money. And that's problematic. It's extremely problematic. So for live content, it's much better to get something out that you know is good enough to start and have a plan for everything to grow and scale. So hopefully you guys see that we're scaling. Hopefully you can feel that every show is growing and that we're honestly trying to do as much as we possibly can to continue to get everything up. So that being said, we like that you send us ideas. Most of them we've already had for months and we're working on it already, and you guys just don't know that. But we still sometimes get people sending us an idea. We're like, ooh, we didn't think of that. We should do that. And other stuff we just can't do. Like certain shit people want for the website. I'm like, we don't have the resources. We just don't have the internal team. We're getting interns though.
Nice.
We're interviewing like 5 possible interns next week.
Right.
I am so excited. I kind of just be like, can we take all 5? Like a different one each day of the week that I can work for 20 hours, and that's their 20 hours for the week is one day. That would be great.
Right. So people who will work long hours for little pay.
Well, luckily they're part of the programs in the school where you don't have to pay them.
Oh, right.
They're that
so
kind of intern. They get credit. Oh man,
that is the best.
So excited.
Well, but also, I mean, there's so many crappy intern jobs. This would be an awesome intern job if you're going to get that credit.
Yeah.
A couple of questions I saw. One, Carbaka keeps asking, and I'm going to answer this, what he should draw Zach as. In the Shadowrun universe, a lot of the CEOs of corporations are dragons.
Yeah.
So I think it's got to be like Zach as a dragon shapeshifter, a human CEO.
You guys remember the beginning of Mass Effect 2 with Martin Sheen and the nice silhouette and everything? I'm wearing that suit and I got the earth behind me, but I'm basically myself as a dragon. Or a tiefling. Whatever. Could be Snugglelord as a dragon. Do tieflings count as dragons? What do the dragons look like in the Shadowrun universe?
I think they're traditional looking
Just
dragons.
They're just dragons that are CEOs.
Yeah.
Oh, Jordan Weissman.
But yeah, but they shapeshift into humans, and there's some weird thing about them having needing translators, and I've never quite figured out how that works out. But my favorite moment so far on Twitch, because I'm an improviser, I love any kind of accident that turns into something amazing. Like the very beginning when that stupid light swung
Almost
down,
hit us in the head.
right?
Yeah.
And someone in the chat room thought it was a manufactured moment.
Cool Creeper 1367. Thank you for following.
Yeah, welcome. I love all that stuff. Those mistakes that turn into really great moments. Those will always be my favorite about anything live. And so, I mean, and Shadowrun, we plan zero about it. So those moments where I'm constantly I'm surprised by something that comes out, or we don't expect to find it, and we find it.
Hey Joe, can you just start buying all these VR games on my account?
You see these?
They're great. Start getting them. I've got credits.
But my favorite moment, hands down, was before it even started. We came in and rehearse, and Jordan Weissman was painting mechs in the background, and I knew who Jordan was. I think Lauren did. No one else knew. And Dan he just would not stop. Like, who invented this fucking game? Like, they're just shilling for the D6 industry. Jordan was just laughing behind him. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And that was on camera. And if you'd been able to see the chat room, everyone was like, "I wonder if they know that's Jordan." About half of us did not.
You got to make sure you're selecting ones that work for the Vive. The ones that work for the Vive are the ones with the triangle.
Nice. I want to get one of these. Should I get the Vive or the Oculus Rift?
Vive.
Yeah.
Go for the Vive. You definitely want the Vive. It's way cleaner. The actual refresh rate it's phenomenal. It's the least motion sick I've got on any of them. Hyper RPG says, "Let us buy some of the VR games for you, like the Butt game." Well, we can't play it on Steam or on stream, unfortunately. It goes too far.
Well, so wants to know what my childhood was like in the middle of this VR conversation. Pretty happy. I grew up in Tennessee. It was a lot of running around outside pretending to be G.I. Joe guys, like Snake Eyes. We would take apart the G.I. Joe because in the 80s, the G.I. Joe figures all had this rubber band on the inside. You could take them apart and put them together. And so everyone combined Blowtorch and Snowjob to make Blowjob, of course. Or you put Destro's head on Scarlet's body. It's a great combination. But a lot of running around outside. I had a Commodore 64 eventually, which is really when I first got into any kind of gaming. Maniac Mansion was my first big game, and then Ultima 6 was the point I stopped going outside and just stayed in my house and played games all day.
We have to test on Vive or PS4 VR.
Well, we haven't tried the PS4 VR, so
It'd be very interesting to see how they're gonna roll with their stuff.
Yeah, Zen State. I literally did do that. I had all the braces and the rubber bands, and yes, I literally did that. It also, the rubber bands for braces made them stretchier, so they had these very dislocatable arms when you did that. Ultima 6 was here's the thing about Ultima 6. These days, people build games and they want to pay for voice acting, and it limits the content. Ultima 6 was the first game where it felt like I'm never gonna find all the NPCs in this game. I'm never gonna find all the stories. Everyone you talk to had some weird plot, and if you really tracked it down, you would usually find there was an answer. And games like Witcher have done a pretty good job of having a reason all this stuff exists in the world, but not much still gets to the level things like Ultima 6 got to.
I'm going to let you keep answering questions while I buy all these VR games and get them installed for tomorrow.
Was there a parting of the ways end of Shadowrun tonight? Is there a break? There's no break. We will be back here next week. But we do want those characters to evolve. I don't want to say this in a negative way because I love shows like Critical Role, but we've talked about like characters should die potentially, so we want to leave that open. So
I'm a big fan of death.
Yeah, especially
on shows because what I can't stand is complacency, and I like the viewer to be afraid. Now, I don't like to go as far as Game of Thrones, where it's more of a fuck you to the viewer, but to say that there should be a sense of danger and not being able to predict, being careful, basically. Yeah, I'm a fan of that.
I was pretty sure one of you motherfuckers was gonna die tonight, Tony.
Yeah, it's kind of, and there's no resurrection in the Shadowrun universe. You can burn some edge and survive a couple of times, but.
Speaking of which, I wanted to throw an idea by you guys. We've been talking about including ways for you all to donate to change what happens in Shadowrun. Hey! Hyper Rap Power, go! This is the first donation of Odyssey Hour tonight. Usually they're rolling in. Comrade Bear.
Evo. I like Evo.
It's
Cromwell.
been awesome to watch this channel grow. #Evo the Corp that notices.
Thanks, man. So, holy shit, they really did like a bunch of games that weren't even on the list to come out, just dropped this week. Just dropped.
Do you need me to get you rolling in the morning?
Do I need you to get me rolling in the morning?
Do you want me
Prefer at 10 though.
Or
It's a 10. All you got to do is click it over. So.
Burning some edge sounds like doing some drugs in Shadowrun.
Yes.
Edge is what does edge represent? It's kind of like luck, but it's this thing that lets a player make extra rolls. You can spin the points, but you have a maximum. You can burn that maximum down to stay alive. There's a couple of very special things you can do it. It's kind of like your 9 lives as a cat, except you don't have 9.
So basically, we want to create a system similar to how you interact with DFA, but not as much. And the only reason you guys haven't seen the DFA stuff for this week yet is we knew we were pushing the Shadowrun metagame really hard today, and we didn't want to push 2 things on you because that's just too much. But we wanted to try something to get you guys feeling like you can interact with the show, and we thought Edge would be the best way to do it, where you could say $25 to give an edge buff to one of the players and a certain player in particular as a corporation. So Wuxing could spend $25 and Lauren would have access to that information and be able to say, you now have this because of this corporation. Or you could give edge to Lauren to give her the ability to do some really crazy shit to the players.
Yeah, we're really excited about that part.
Right?
Yeah.
Can I just say, I think this is hilarious that the Job Simulator game on Steam has a tag called Illuminati. Virtual reality and Illuminati. Hey, Hyper Rabbit Power, go! Speaking of Wuxing. Oh, this is amazing.
Zach, do you want Superman to stay dead
Watsing
this
would
time?
like to thank you with kanji. The order may take up to a month to arrive.
I wonder if that was Malika because she knows kanji is my most favorite thing that she makes. It's Shilling is now following. Thank you so much. I'm going to let you answer a couple more. I'm almost done adding things. There were so many that came out today.
Listen, Superman's not going to stay dead. That's one of the huge problems of those characters. I remember when Flash, Barry Allen was dead for years, and they actually stuck to their guns long enough to have it be interesting. But I don't know about you. I have so much trouble getting into comics now with the sort of editorial mandates that change the universes like every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of books that have creators come on for like a 20-issue run.
Yeah.
And they're like a beginning, middle, and end. That's my favorite shit, for sure.
Yeah, almost all my favorite series, like especially growing up, were that.
Habitual Gypsy is now following. Thank you for the follow. Guys, I'm almost done adding VR games to our cart, I promise.
Those runs, I was excited when Marvel did their Ultimate Universe.
Robin Hood is now following. Thank you for the follow.
Nice, thank you. When Marvel did their Ultimate Universe, it was super interesting at first. Like Brian Michael Bendis on Spider-Man for, I can't remember how long he was on it, but it was just such a good run just because of how long he stuck to it. Ultimates, the first two Ultimates before it got terrible.
Agreed. Man, getting really close.
Yeah, I don't know. I was looking up Jubilee the other day. I'd forgotten about her history because when Janine was talking about her, when we were talking about characters for Shadowrun, Janine's character Elsie is very Jubilee-esque in some ways, although a little more violent because it is Shadowrun.
Hey, Hyper Rabbit Power gift! Thank you, Paradigm Shift.
Hashtag Evo, the corp that cares about Zach even though he distrusts us for it. And would really like him to get some sleep. Malika should get Seattle soon.
Yeah.
Well, someone was talking about Civil War coming up. I was excited about it because I actually think they've done great stuff with Captain America, but I don't know. The more characters I see them adding, the more I get worried it's just gonna be another. Let's have 1 million characters in it.
Yeah. I only have faith in the movie because of the Russo brothers.
Yeah.
Because I thought Winter Soldier was just brilliant.
Yeah. Janine and I. That was probably our favorite. The last Wolverine movie was actually cool.
Actually, I was surprised by it too. I didn't like some aspects of the ending, but I liked the director's cut a lot, and I liked that it felt very Wolverine comic book.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's in Japan. Oh, wait a minute. The IKEA VR experience.
Wow.
That's a thing.
I wonder if it leads to as many relationship breakdowns as the real IKEA does.
Jeez.
Also, I just like that last Wolverine because they employed a ton of Japanese actors. So
Yeah. It was good with a lot of stuff like that. Let's see. Any other questions there? Gosh, I got to get done with this so I can get back to asking you questions.
Zach's basically doing a virtual shopping spree here.
I am. Because I know I'll have to start installing these overnight for them to be ready tomorrow.
I think the Avengers will be in the movie a lot less than people think. I think they'll be just for 2 scuffles, and then it'll die down to just Cap, Tony, Widow, and Winter Soldier. That would be my dream. I kind of hope they're just adding that stuff in as trailer stuff, and they give you a feel of this is taking place in a greater universe. But I'm a big fan of any story's got to have a pretty small number of characters to really focus on.
Yeah, for you to feel it, you know?
Dan Pausens, Mordecai, said this really funny thing when the last...
Hyper Rabbit Powered,
When the last Avengers came out, it's like, I feel like I live in this weird universe looking at things like
Hashtag
Daredevil.
Shiawas would like Cromwell's life and happiness to continue advancing. Murzak winking face.
Oh, well, Cromwell thinks that's very nice. I need to tell you the story of that accent in a minute. Where was I? Maximum number of characters. I got distracted. See, it's late.
Boom. Take that.
Instead, I'm going to answer this. Did I expect to be sleeping for so long during Shadowrun? What was I thinking about while resting? No, I did not. When I put my head down, I'm like, this is a good idea. About 25 minutes in, where my head was stuck to that plastic binder, I felt like it was a terrible idea, but I wanted to commit. Also, I kept laughing at the other cast, which I was trying not to do. So that was mostly what I was thinking about. And just waiting for it to be 6 a.m. so I could get my head up.
Wow, I'm blown away by how many games just dropped. They weren't even on the list of things to come out, and they just dropped.
Wow.
It was like over 30 something. All right, that's okay. Putting in the order.
Here's what Dan said. I remembered what I was saying. Looking at like Daredevil and Jessica Jones versus Avengers 2, he's like, I feel like I live in this weird world where Joss Whedon is making shitty movies while other people are making more interesting television.
It's true. Because like Daredevil season 2 was so fucking good. Ugh. And I'm really bummed I haven't got to watch it on a really like my 4K TV is down in LA with Malika. She's using it for her thesis project, and I can't wait to get that up here and rewatch it because they filmed it using HDR.
Oh, okay.
And in 4K. So I like can't wait to get that and watch it in Netflix 4K and be like, oh, so pretty. This is good. Like I geeked the fuck out over really good cinematography, and I hated that when I was watching it, I could see those like. I know those blacks aren't supposed to be crushed. I know that those yellows aren't supposed to be that muddy. Like, it's just a problem with the transfer and the signal, and I can't wait to watch it in high quality.
A few questions. How long did it take to... Oh, here's a question for you. Where can they send fan mail? Which, I don't know if that's code for pipe bombs or not. So.
No, we're working on that. We finally got to the point where I think people want to start sending us stuff. We were gonna get a P.O. box. Actually, we have a P.O.
You have a P.O. box on your like business page.
Yeah, we have a P.O. box. Let me get the P.O. Message us and I'll find the P.O. box. We'll say that.
How long did it take me to create Cromwell? Longer than you might think. Because I looked at we want him to be a tank, and so I looked at Marv from Sin City. I thought about a little bit Wolverine. I thought about what was the weirdest thing is the who are the robbers that rob Scrooge's house in like every Christmas Carol and the Ghost of Christmas Future. I don't know. I'm always fascinated by those guys because they're random in every show. So it came out of a bunch of stuff like that. It also just came around with playing with the other players. Because we played around with those characters a few times before we went on, just to get a feel of how they played off of each other. So a lot of that just came out of that in the moment stuff.
So, you said you'd played Shadowrun before, and it's kind of what got you to be excited about that. In the past, do you have any characters that you could any characters from your past that might be fun to share with us?
It is Frederic Francois de la Montagne.
Wait, what?
Who I designed on a French musketeer, but another character who was not as intelligent as he might have believed, but more of a fast talker, sleazy sort of guy, and he was basically, I don't think I would call him street samurais then, but he was majorly cybered up and tried to hide it from women most of the time. So that was probably my favorite.
He tried to hide that he was cybered up from women?
Right. So it was all about cosmetic looks and covering it up with clothing and trying to impress women.
Was that a 7th Sea character?
No, it was not. But it was Shadowrun.
Oh, gotcha, yeah.
But really, he was a translation from a D&D character. I tend to have these archetypes I like, and I'll take them from game to game, because it's interesting to me to say, like, how does...
Yeah, I've been taking Snugglelord all over the universes.
Right, it's like, how do you recreate that thing you know? How is it different, right? So in some ways, Cromwell's a throwback in a very futuristic universe. And I think a lot of our characters are in some ways. Like Dan's Mordecai, right, who does not get technology. Like, how does that work in the Sixth World?
Yeah, how does that work? Oh, it doesn't, and that's why it's fun.
Yes. We keep getting tips from people about how to be better Shadowrunners, and some of them get it, but some of them I'm like, we as players might know that it's not the smartest move.
But you do what's more fun, because it's a show. It's about having fun and being entertaining.
And there's a difference. Thor? Sorry, Thor, if you're here, I don't remember your name, had a blog post about playing. There is a difference, I think, if you're playing in a game, and if you're being a bad player versus playing a bad character. Because a bad character still takes their world seriously. It's like Jane in Firefly is an idiot, but he still takes consequences seriously, and he himself doesn't think he's a funny character. I think it's really fun to play dumb characters who take themselves seriously. Did I fight bug spirits when I played Shadowrun? I never did, actually. Back when I played Shadowrun, it was like whatever books you could get, you got, and so I didn't have much of the we were just kind of making stuff up as we went along. So, as an Englishman, thanks for representing Cromwell representing you so well. Well, I'm glad you feel he does. The accent is this. We did an improvised Doctor Who show.
Well, I mean, a lot of your accent exists to drive Lauren nuts,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
We did the Doctor, which was improvised Doctor Who. I played the Doctor. Lauren's actually British. She was in our show. And, like, I'm from Tennessee. Getting a British accent right is not going to go well. And the smallest things I did would drive her crazy. So when I found out she's going to be the GM, I'm like, I'm going to do, like, the worst British accent and, like, really commit to it and figure it out just to drive her up the wall.
Yeah, I love how much Lauren can't stand your accent.
Yes.
It makes it... Like, those are the things that I think are really great about the show, is that there's a camaraderie and things happening to troll each other that I think make it more fun. Tony, any chance to help the channel get a HoloLens to use or have for show use?
I would love to get that set up. I work on Office, so all the demos I see are Office on HoloLens, which, you know, it's Excel in 3D.
Well, we're actually working on... We're actually working on trying to get the HoloLens people in the studio. We have a couple contacts there. What's funny is Malika actually is applying for a job on the HoloLens team. I probably should have said that out loud. I don't want to put any pressure on her, but the listing was just posted, and she's like, yeah, I'm going for it. That's the perfect job for me. And good luck to her. I think it would be amazing for her to be on that team. But we know a couple people on that team, and we're trying. The thing is, because it's Microsoft and not like other game companies, the second we're like, we would love to do this, they're like, great. Send us your analytics. Like, let us know what your outreach is. Honestly, guys, we've got turned down for a lot of stuff that we want to do because we're not big enough. Yeah. That's the other thing. Like, we need more people watching this channel and more people participating in things. Otherwise, we can't even get new stuff to show you. Like, we have stretched so thin to try to bring new things in, and it's amazing some of the stuff we've got because a lot of people just break it down to numbers. They just like go, oh, wait, you guys only have this many viewers? No, sorry, we're not going to work with you. It doesn't matter how professional we are or the fact that I actually think it does matter. They just need to come here in person. We have to convince people to come to the studio, see our setup. They'll get excited. But when it's over emails, it always dies right after they look at our analytics. They get to that point and they're like, nope, sorry, you guys aren't big enough for us.
Yeah, I think that's where it is. It'll be easier in a couple of months even. But even as we start to see how it works, but I'm sure we'll get HoloLens in here sometime.
Eventually, it just might take a while. I was surprised we got Alexa. Happy but surprised. Well, luckily that was another like contact I've had for a while. I spoke for Paul at TwitchCon. Hyper Rabbit Power, go!
I don't know why you can't
Hyper
use
RPG runs on #Neonet.
Nice.
Monitor the Great, 200 plus viewers on average isn't enough for them to perk their ears? No. Honestly, no. No. We need 1,000 plus for me to do 90% of the things I want to be doing. Yeah. That's just the sad reality of the situation. Because they're not comparing us to the average of Twitch. They're comparing us to the top 10% that they could also show their stuff on. That being said, I think we could better represent people, so it's just us getting them in the room and seeing our setup and that it actually looks professional, and it's not going to be like going to somebody else's where it's more contained. And
Warning, big donation.
Hyper Rabbit Power, go!
Big donation. Warning, big donation. Hype.
Some of it's the interaction with fans too, I think. Like Microsoft could go on a channel that might have more viewers, but they don't get to talk to a chat room.
Destroy 'em, yeah. That's hard for us to explain to people because they assume we're a Twitch channel that's like the rest of Twitch. I've had this problem for the last year and a half of Twitch channels I've been a part of because we've always focused on community, and they just look at numbers, and it's really hard to give a number for positive engagement.
Right.
To without them being there and seeing it. That's why we get return guests. Like, that's why we get, when people come by once, they want to come back because you guys are amazing and you're supportive and you ask a lot of questions. After they were done with the Alexa thing, Paul was like, oh gosh, we should do a hackathon. And he really wants to set a thing up, and we're going to start talking about it where we do like a 24-hour hackathon with you guys live, to where he's training you how to make apps. You guys are competing against each other to write a piece of software, and then the winner gets a certain thing because you guys were so great and you asked so many great great questions. So that kind of stuff I think once they get here and they see how engaged you all are and how many questions you ask, it goes over really well. But unfortunately, most marketing teams just look at numbers, and it's really hard to be like, hey, our engagement is better. It's better to have 200 people that will actually click on a link to your website than 800 people that say, fuck you, Microsoft, which is most streams.
Yeah.
Wist is actually looking into making skills for Alexa. Well, Wist, stick around, and we might have a contest for our channel.
Twitch, I can't really speak to the rest of Twitch, but like the chat rooms here are also very positive.
I can speak for the rest of Twitch. Just as an experiment, go spend some time on the front page, like League of Legends, Call of Duty streamers. Sometime, just go check it out.
Yeah.
Tournament pages, just go hang out.
Yeah.
I'll give you good perspective.
Okay.
Really good perspective.
I will try it out and report back. We'll you and Cromwell go to certain part. I'm sure Cromwell will be a great representation of what.
Well, that's the whole reason I'm going to Emerald City Comic Con this weekend, is to meet locals, to talk to people, try to get the word out about the channel. So,
here's another weird thing about Seattle locally. We don't have people like Zach and what he's trying to do up here. It's one of the reasons that we're all like very supportive. There's a weird history because Washington passed all these tax laws in the 80s and 90s that drove the film industry away, either up to Vancouver or to other places. And out of that came a weird culture of there are a lot of talent up here. There are very good producers who know how to produce things, who understand what that takes, stuff like that. So some of the trouble I'm sure Zach runs into is people just literally don't quite understand what he's doing.
oh, they have no idea. Our business insurance was hilarious. For one, they tried telling us we couldn't exist as a business because we were breaking copyright. They said they couldn't insure us because we were playing other people's games without their permission.
Okay, right.
Yeah. And filming it. And we're like, no. The Twitch exists because there's a loophole.
Right.
Otherwise, Twitch wouldn't work as a business. But we've encountered a lot of people not really understanding what we do or how we do it, and there's like a learning curve there. It's different. But we have a learning curve from my end of how to speak to the tech companies up here. Because it is different. It was very different even interacting with game companies in LA, because there's media companies surrounding them everywhere, and almost every game developer in LA has probably also been on camera at some point, strangely. So they... I see somebody already did me as the elusive man.
It's Carbaka who does great art. So
Yeah.
I can't click. I can't click to look. But
Somebody tweet me. So one thing that was kind of understood in LA when working with game PR firms and companies, they would send out a face and somebody to sit behind the scenes. And we'd talk to the person behind the scenes, and they'd update the face, and the face would go out and represent the brand.
Huh.
And it was very different,
Right.
because they did this constantly. And up here, it's just kind of like, yeah, we'll send out, and then it's like people who've never been on camera before and are really nervous, and they don't really know how to act, and that you can tell that they get really like kind of shaken up, and they don't know how to communicate with the chat room. So it's different.
Yeah. White Rabbit has asked a question about leaving Tennessee because I dislike rednecks, and to be fair, I'm being very unfair to Tennessee in some ways. Why did I end up different than the average person from Tennessee? I mean, I don't want to be unfair and say there was an average person, but Tennessee is... when I was back there, my dad said, "Oh, you like theater?" I got you and Janine tickets to go see a show, which was Dolly Parton's Dixie Stampede.
Oh, yes! I've seen it!
And so it literally was...
They give you an entire chicken!
Yeah. But it's like medieval times.
Yeah.
It's a horse show. Yeah. It's like, you'll either represent the North or the South.
Yep.
Guess which
No
side?
shit.
Guess which side my dad put us on? The South. At some point, literally, guest plus they had a black employee. A black employee came up in a Confederate outfit and like had to sell me like a Confederate flag with Dixie Stampede on it. So it's just to say this: the South has not moved on from basically the Civil War, and Tennessee specifically had no real stake in the game in the Civil War. They fought each other. Tons of soldiers died there. They've been in some form of poverty and other since then, and they just don't have a new thing to come replace it in so many of the poorer areas. So I actually have a lot of sympathy for that that part of the country.
I do too. I mean, what was always funny to me when I went from living in the middle of nowhere south with people who come from poverty, and then I lived in the ghetto of Kansas City and the ghetto of other cities in LA too. Despite those two parties typically hating each other, they're so similar. And they should be banding together against the 1%, but instead they typically hate each other, and they're very, very similar and speak similarly, have the same pastimes to get through their troubles and to relate to each other. And it's unfortunate, but I do have a lot of sympathy too, because it's weird to, and I'm sure some of you do, but it's so different to go from living in places where it's kind of like your country forgot you existed, and then go to places where they haven't, and it is different, and you feel you don't know that you're being forgotten because it's all you know, and you don't have an outside perspective for the most part, so it's weird. Well, that's what does make ghettos a little bit different, is usually in the ghetto you see what's right next door, and there's that constant tension there, whereas in the South that usually doesn't happen as much, and it's like when you're in poverty, and it's everywhere.
Yeah. And when I was growing up, there was racism. It was more racism of ignorance, because there was literally no one to be racist against living next to you, because it was just very homogenous.
Yes.
I was lucky enough. I mentioned Oak Ridge. I lived near it, and my parents sent me over to there to go to school. And because it had the national labs, it had a very diverse population and a really good education system. And obviously, in that story is the fact my parents were willing to send me over. I had what's the right word? I had the privilege of sort of being sent there. I was also just a very curious kid, and that I mentioned having a Commodore 64. Even back then, like the internet and gaming and stuff like that gave me a broader community to talk with, and to realize there's this bigger world and that different people were super interesting.
Yeah, I don't honestly know how my parents did it with us, because we weren't. I think it must have just been them raising us to respect other people, because we had no, sometimes I sit there and really wonder how did myself and my brothers end up different, because we really had no fucking link at all to the outside world. We didn't travel, we hardly ever went on vacations.
Right.
We're just trapped. And especially myself growing up, we had no internet, we didn't really have TV. I watched a lot of movies, but I had to build my own computer, and even then I had no one to play with.
Right.
I played Unreal Tournament against bots for 4 years. That I didn't have anybody to play with.
I was talking to Jordan about this, because he made the Star Trek role-playing game back in the day, and we had one source book from it, which was a space combat, and we had one space map that was this long grid, so your ships could not go out of a certain zone. And it was we were the three nerds in my school, and we just played stuff like that all the time. But we didn't have that broader access to stuff. But on the other hand, we didn't, that whole getting to go out and run around outside, and a lot of that, and it being it felt like a safer world. It's still it's safe as it was then now, but we have a perception generally that it's less safe, I think. So people don't send their kids out to run around. But in Tennessee, you can, because...
Oh, everybody still does where I'm from. And that's what I love about it. I actually really like that. I really appreciate when I go down there, and the few kids that are still around, they're just outside fucking around, shooting guns at trees.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I appreciated that upbringing. I understand the different upbringings, but I appreciated the freedom to be free.
Yeah.
I got to have experiences. I didn't realize how unique those experiences were until I moved to a city for school and started making friends and talking to them about their childhoods and being like, wait, what? Really? You just played games inside and they thought I was lying about so much stuff. Honestly, there were so many stories where they just assumed I was making shit up. Right. Until I remember one group in particular just flat out told me, I kept telling them all these stories about people I knew and how I was raised and blah, blah, and I took them down for a float trip, and on the way down we stopped at this guy's place, and I'll never forget, because it was a normal thing for me, and I saw it in that instant from their eyes, as it was happening, and I was like, oh, they're gonna think this is weird. They're gonna think this is really weird, and it was to the point it's out in the middle of the mountains, so it's just, there's lots of empty space and freedom, basically. And you pull off into this driveway, and this guy's got his mobile home there, and and that's the other big thing where I'm from. You got a mobile home, and then you have a garage/shop that's 5 times bigger than the house you live in.
Yes.
Because it's way more important to have a good place to work and build cars and all that stuff than your home.
Do you have the kind of uppity cousins who have the double wide trailer?
Of course
and,
I do.
Yeah, rub it in.
And then also have like a bass boat and like thousands and thousands of dollars of hunting equipment, but then have like a house that's falling apart. Like, yeah, totally. Yeah. So we pull in, and there's like all these old guys that are my dad's friends that I grew up around and everything, and they're just shooting shotguns into the air and passing beer back and forth. And then, like, I remember one of them saying something like, "Give me that, I can do it." And the other being like, "You're drunk, I'm not handing you a shotgun." Just kidding, take the, what, right. And then handing it over and not thinking anything weird of it. And then I was like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" And they're like, one of the guy's son was on a tractor plowing a field across on the other side of the mountain. And they were trying to pellet him with shotgun shells to get his attention for him to come back for dinner. That was the normal kind of thing. And they're all like making it a competition to see who can be the one that gets the shells to land on him. Right. And this is the guy's kid, and I'm just like, I caught myself laugh and then looked back at my friends and realized in that moment, in that instant, I saw in their faces the second they realized every story I'd ever told them was true.
Right.
And they're processing everything and going, "Oh my God, why did I just agree to come down here? Oh my, wait, what's going on?" You could just see it on their face. Like, everything it's real. And then so much other stuff happened that weekend too, where they were just like constantly being like, "Wow, this is okay. All right. This is different. This is very different." But to me, it was normal.
Yeah. Well, it's that the point you realize your family is weird, like where like all this stuff is normal.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
I asked Zach about his experience in basketball.
I mean, like a lot of kids, it's not that different.
Here's my basketball story.
Yeah, you got one?
I'm probably gonna regret telling this story. I was a kid. I was obviously just starting puberty, and I was watching Pac-Man, the cartoon. Because in the 80s there was this Pac-Man cartoon, and it had this weird gender thing where like Pac-Man would get bit by the ghosts all the time, and I can't remember. I think he would get bandages on him or something, but Mrs. Pac-Man never got bit. And this one episode, Miss Pac-Man got bit. I remember being like, I just had a weird feeling. And then my dad came in. He's like, "We gotta get a basketball tryouts." And so I had to leave the show, and I wanted to find out what happened. It forced me to go to basketball tryouts because my dad grew up in Indiana and was a big basketball star. I literally took my first shot. It bounced off the rim, came and hit me in the face and bloodied my nose. And my dad felt so bad he never made me try out for sports again.
Oh my God! I wish that would have been my experience.
And so it was this weird formative experience.
Sport fight, I can tell you yes. And I could totally beat that with lots of other creative ways to make fireworks work together. 1,000 sparklers, chump change. Let's build a cannon with a tennis ball filled with match heads that you can light and know when it's going to explode when it hits the ground. Or make muriatic acid bombs. Or one of my favorites is the old coffee can trick. You get an old red fire wheelbarrow, and you put a little hole in the coffee can, put a black cat in it, and 2 inches of water, and it'll shoot it like 100 feet up in the air. We had all sorts of crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, one of the first things I had access on the free net before the internet was a thing was the Anarchist Cookbook. As kids, we would build stuff out of that, which is really stupid. I'm lucky I didn't get more injuries than I did, but you could.
Oh, I got lots. I did get lots of injuries.
I was around you when you.
Oh, you got I
drilled your finger
all the time, man. All the time. I went to the emergency room 3 times for my eyes alone. One of them was from a firecracker. Like, I had a firework go into a vein. Like, I have a scar right here on my vein.
Wow.
It was one of those spinny ones, like.
Oh yeah.
And so we used to have these big Halloween raids on my house. This is another like, holy shit, people are crazy in the South. Actually, I really like this story, so I'm gonna tell it. So. There was a tradition in my hometown. Every Halloween, the seniors would try to egg our house. this started when I was like 4 years old. And it lasted all the way until I was a senior in high school. And then it finally had to stop because the local authorities said, okay, we can't let this go on anymore. Someone's going to die.
Right.
It got that bad because it got so intense. It started with...
And in the South, it takes a long time
It takes
for the
a long
authorities to...
time for the authorities. And it's, of course, they don't knock on your door and be like, we need to